The grand dining hall of Giovanni Marchese's private estate buzzed with quiet tension. Tonight marked an important gathering, powerful associates, respected allies, and dangerous rivals alike, all invited to honor the memory of Giovanni's late mother on the anniversary of her passing. Every year, Giovanni insisted on serving her favorite recipe, a rich, slow-cooked tomato and herb stew she had perfected decades ago, passed down through generations of her family, before she shared it lovingly with her son. This year, Giovanni had hired 10 professional models, each claiming culinary training, to prepare the dish for the important event. He watched now, arms crossed, frustration building steadily as each attempt fell disastrously short of his memories. "This tastes nothing like what I asked for," Giovanni said sharply, pushing away another failed attempt with visible irritation. The nervous young woman responsible quickly excused herself, clearly recognizing the danger of upsetting a man of Giovanni's reputation. One by one, each of the 10 hired women failed to recreate the delicate balance of flavors Giovanni remembered so vividly from his childhood. Frustration mounted visibly on his face as the clock ticked closer to the event. Guests due to arrive within hours. "Sir," his assistant said nervously, "perhaps we should simply order from a restaurant instead." "No," Giovanni interrupted firmly, his voice tight, with barely controlled emotion. "This dish honors my mother's memory. It must be done correctly, or not at all." As tension filled the kitchen, a quiet voice spoke up from near the back, where kitchen staff typically remained unseen and unheard during such important gatherings. "Sir, if I may," Bella said softly, stepping forward hesitantly. She was a humble kitchen assistant, responsible mainly for cleaning and basic preparation tasks, rarely noticed by anyone beyond the kitchen staff themselves. Giovanni turned sharply, surprised by her sudden boldness. "Excuse me." Bella swallowed nervously but continued, encouraged by desperation rather than confidence. "I recognize this recipe, sir. I believe I can prepare it correctly, if given the chance." Giovanni studied her skeptically, his patience clearly worn thin from the day's repeated failures. "You, a kitchen assistant, succeeding where 10 trained professionals have already failed." Bella nodded firmly despite her nervousness. "I understand if you don't trust me, sir, but please, allow me just one attempt." Giovanni hesitated, glancing briefly at the clock ticking ominously closer to the event start time. Finally, exhaustion and desperation outweighing his skepticism, he nodded curtly. "Fine. One attempt. Don't waste my time." Bella moved quickly but confidently into the kitchen, gathering ingredients with practiced ease despite her humble position. Giovanni watched closely, curiosity slowly replacing his initial skepticism as she worked with surprising skill and familiarity. As the dish slowly simmered, rich aromas began filling the kitchen, aromas achingly familiar to Giovanni, awakening memories long buried beneath years of loss and grief. His breath caught unexpectedly, emotions he rarely allowed himself to feel suddenly surfacing powerfully. When Bella finally presented the finished dish, Giovanni took a cautious bite, bracing himself for another disappointment. Instead, his eyes widened in genuine shock, memories flooding back vividly. Childhood evenings spent watching his mother cook lovingly in their humble kitchen, long before wealth and power had changed their lives forever. "This is," Giovanni whispered, his voice suddenly thick with emotion he rarely displayed publicly, "exactly how my mother made it." Bella watched him nervously, unsure how to interpret his reaction. "I'm glad it meets your expectations, sir." Giovanni looked up at her sharply, suspicion suddenly overshadowing his emotional vulnerability. "How is this possible? This recipe was never written down. My mother guarded it fiercely, sharing it with no one outside our immediate family." Bella hesitated, clearly uncertain how much to reveal. I learned it directly from her, sir. Years ago, before she passed away." Giovanni's expression turned incredulous, disbelief mixing dangerously with renewed suspicion. "You knew my mother personally?" Bella nodded slowly, clearly nervous about revealing this hidden connection. "Yes, sir. I worked closely with her during the final years of her life." Giovanni stared at Bella intently, his mind racing rapidly through confusion, suspicion, and overwhelming emotion simultaneously. "Why have you never mentioned this before?" You've worked in my kitchens for months, without ever revealing such an important connection. Bella lowered her eyes nervously. I didn't think it was my place, sir. I feared overstepping boundaries, given your position and my own humble status. Giovanni's sharp gaze remained fixed intently upon her, clearly torn between gratitude for the emotional gift she had unknowingly given him, and deep suspicion about her hidden connection to his family's most private memories. We will discuss this further, Bella, Giovanni said finally, his tone serious and commanding. After tonight's event concludes, I expect a full explanation. Understood. Bella nodded quickly, apprehension clear in her expression. Yes, sir. Completely understood. As Giovanni turned to prepare for his important gathering, memories of his mother lingering powerfully in his mind, he couldn't shake the unsettling realization that this humble kitchen worker held secrets about his family far deeper than he had ever imagined, secrets that could change everything he thought he understood about his own past. The gathering that evening passed in a blur for Giovanni, his mind constantly drifting back to the humble kitchen worker who had somehow recreated his mother's most treasured recipe with perfect precision. Guests praised the dish repeatedly throughout dinner, unaware of the emotional storm churning quietly beneath Giovanni's composed exterior. Once the last guest departed and the estate finally grew quiet, Giovanni made his way directly to the kitchen, where Bella remained, nervously finishing her cleaning duties. Sit down, Bella, Giovanni said, his tone serious, but not unkind. It's time for that explanation. Bella wiped her hands nervously on her apron before sitting across from him at the small kitchen table. Where would you like me to begin, sir? Start with how you knew my mother, Giovanni said firmly. She rarely allowed outsiders into her private life, especially not into her kitchen. Bella took a deep breath, memories clearly surfacing as she began her explanation. 5 years ago, before I came to work in your estate's kitchens, I worked at a small bakery downtown. Your mother visited regularly, always ordering the same simple pastries. Giovanni listened intently, surprised by this unexpected detail about his mother's private routine. I never knew she frequented a bakery. She often came alone, seeking quiet moments away from her usual responsibilities, Bella explained gently. Over time, we developed a friendly acquaintance. She noticed my genuine passion for cooking and began sharing small cooking tips during her visits. And the recipe? Giovanni asked, his voice tight with anticipation. Bella nodded slowly. As we grew closer, she eventually invited me to her home occasionally, teaching me some of her cherished family recipes personally. She said she wanted someone outside her family to appreciate the tradition and care behind each dish. Giovanni sat back, absorbing this surprising revelation. Why didn't she ever mention you to me? Bella hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with this part of her explanation. She specifically asked me to keep our friendship private, sir. She worried it might create complications, given your family's position and reputation. Giovanni studied Bella carefully, suspicion mixing uneasily with genuine curiosity. And after she passed away, why did you seek employment specifically within my household? Bella lowered her eyes nervously. I wanted to honor her memory somehow. When I heard your estate needed kitchen staff, I saw it as an opportunity to feel closer to her memory, even in a small, humble way. Giovanni's expression softened slightly, though suspicion still lingered clearly behind his intense gaze. Why did you never reveal any of this to me directly, especially once you began working here? I feared it might seem inappropriate, sir, Bella admitted honestly. A humble kitchen worker claiming personal friendship with your late mother could easily be misunderstood, perhaps even seen as manipulative or dishonest. Giovanni considered her explanation seriously, recognizing genuine sincerity behind her nervous honesty. You could have simply told me the truth from the beginning, Bella. I would have respected your connection to my mother's memory. Bella looked up, meeting his intense gaze directly for the first time since their conversation began. I understand that now, sir. I apologize for the misunderstanding my silence may have caused. Giovanni studied her thoughtfully, complicated emotions clearly swirling behind his controlled exterior. Tonight, watching you recreate her recipe so perfectly, feeling those memories rush back so vividly, It meant more to me than you could possibly understand. Bella's expression softened with genuine empathy. I'm truly glad I could offer you that gift, even if my timing and method of revealing our connection could have been better. Giovanni nodded slowly, tension easing somewhat from his shoulders. From now on, Bella, I'd like you to personally oversee preparations whenever my mother's recipes are requested for important gatherings. Bella's eyes widened slightly in surprise. Sir, I'm honored, but I'm simply a kitchen assistant. I don't have the formal training your other staff members possess. Formal training clearly means little compared to genuine understanding and connection, Giovanni said firmly. Tonight proved that clearly. As their conversation concluded, Giovanni couldn't shake a growing sense of curiosity and respect toward this humble woman, who had unexpectedly become a meaningful connection to his cherished memories of his mother. Meanwhile, unaware of the private conversation occurring within Giovanni's kitchen, one of his household guards, Rico, had secretly witnessed Giovanni's unusual behavior and interest toward Bella throughout the evening. Rico, secretly loyal to a rival family led by Don Ferraro, immediately reported this unusual development. The boss seems unusually invested in a simple kitchen worker, Rico reported quietly over a secure phone line. He fired 10 professional models today, then spent considerable private time with her afterward. On the other end, Don Ferraro listened carefully, his calculating mind quickly recognizing a potential opportunity. Interesting. Giovanni rarely shows personal interest in anyone outside his immediate circle. Find out everything about this woman immediately. Understood, sir, Rico replied, quickly ending the call to begin gathering additional information. Back within Giovanni's estate, unaware of the danger silently forming around her, Bella prepared to leave for the evening, relieved that her secret connection to Giovanni's mother had finally been revealed and understood. As she gathered her belongings near the estate's back entrance, Giovanni unexpectedly appeared, his expression thoughtful. Bella, wait, he said softly. I wanted to personally thank you again for tonight and for honoring my mother's memory so beautifully. Bella smiled warmly, genuine emotion evident in her voice. It was truly my pleasure, sir. Your mother was an incredibly kind woman. I'm grateful I had the opportunity to know her, even briefly. Giovanni studied her carefully, something unspoken clearly passing between them in the quiet evening air. Perhaps, he said slowly, we could continue this conversation sometime soon, under less formal circumstances. Bella's cheeks flushed slightly at his unexpected suggestion. I would like that very much, sir. As Bella finally departed the estate that evening, unaware of Rico's secret betrayal and the danger quietly forming around her, Giovanni watched thoughtfully from the doorway, already anticipating their next meeting with unexpected warmth and curiosity he hadn't experienced in years. Over the following weeks, Giovanni found himself seeking out Bella's company more frequently, using every possible excuse to spend time near the kitchens or requesting her presence during small, informal meals. Their conversations, initially cautious and formal, gradually grew warmer and more personal. One quiet afternoon, Giovanni found Bella preparing a simple lunch in the estate's smaller family kitchen, away from the formal dining areas typically used for business gatherings. That smells wonderful, Giovanni said, leaning casually against the doorway. Bella looked up, smiling warmly at his unexpected appearance. Just something simple. Nothing fancy enough for your usual gatherings. Simple is exactly what I've been craving lately, Giovanni admitted, stepping further into the kitchen. May I join you? Bella nodded, gesturing toward the small table nearby. As they shared the meal together, their conversation flowed easily, touching on childhood memories, favorite foods, and quiet observations about life beyond Giovanni's demanding responsibilities. You know, Giovanni said thoughtfully, I don't think I've relaxed this much in years. Bella smiled gently. Your mother used to say something similar about her quiet moments in the bakery. She said cooking simple meals reminded her who she truly was, beneath all the expectations and responsibilities. Giovanni's expression grew contemplative. She rarely spoke about needing an escape from her responsibilities. I always assumed she embraced her role completely. She loved you deeply, Giovanni, Bella said gently. using his first name for the first time. But even the strongest people need quiet moments to simply be themselves. Giovanni studied her carefully, admiration and something deeper flickering behind his intense gaze. You understand her remarkably well, considering your friendship was relatively brief. Sometimes brief connections leave the deepest impressions, Bella said softly, meeting his eyes directly. Their quiet moment was interrupted by Giovanni's assistant entering hurriedly. Sir, apologies for the interruption, but you have an urgent call. Giovanni sighed reluctantly, standing to address his responsibilities. Duty calls, unfortunately. As he prepared to leave, he paused, turning back toward Bella. Perhaps we could continue this again soon? Bella smiled warmly. I'd like that very much, Giovanni. As days passed, their bond deepened steadily, despite Bella's growing unease about her feelings toward a man whose world remained shrouded in danger and complexity she barely understood. She found herself increasingly drawn to his quiet vulnerability, so different from the intimidating reputation he carried within his dangerous world. Meanwhile, Rico continued secretly monitoring Giovanni's growing attachment to Bella, reporting each new development carefully to Don Ferraro. They're spending considerable private time together, Rico reported during another secretive call. Giovanni seems genuinely emotionally invested, more than I've ever witnessed before. Don Ferraro's calculating mind quickly recognized the potential value of this information. Learn everything about this woman's background, her family, her weaknesses. If Giovanni cares this deeply, she could become an invaluable tool against him. Understood, sir, Rico replied, already planning his next steps carefully. Unaware of the dangers silently gathering around her, Bella continued her quiet routine within Giovanni's estate, increasingly comfortable in his presence, gradually opening up emotionally despite her initial reservations about his dangerous world. One evening, as they sat together on the estate's quiet terrace, watching the sunset paint vibrant colors across the sky, Bella finally voiced her growing concerns. Giovanni, I need to ask you something honestly, she said softly. Anything, Giovanni replied, turning his full attention toward her. This world you live in, the danger, the responsibility, the constant risk. How do you manage it emotionally? Bella asked carefully. Giovanni considered her question thoughtfully before responding. Honestly, it's exhausting. Every decision carries weight, every relationship potential risk. Sometimes the isolation feels unbearable. Then why continue? Bella asked gently. Responsibility, Giovanni admitted. My family's legacy. The people who depend on my leadership and protection. It's not a burden I can simply set aside. Bella nodded slowly, understanding clearly forming behind her thoughtful gaze. I admire your dedication, Giovanni, even as I worry about the dangers it brings. Giovanni reached out gently, taking her hand in his. I understand your concerns completely, Bella. I would never want to burden you unnecessarily with the dangers of my world. It's too late for that, Bella said softly, though warmth rather than resentment colored her tone. I already care deeply about what happens to you, Giovanni, regardless of the risks involved. Giovanni's eyes softened, emotion clearly visible now behind his usually controlled exterior. I feel the same way about you, Bella, more intensely than I ever expected to feel again after losing my mother. Their quiet, intimate moment was suddenly interrupted by Giovanni's assistant rushing urgently onto the terrace. Sir, forgive the interruption, but we have a serious situation. Security has identified unfamiliar men monitoring the estate's perimeter. Giovanni's expression instantly hardened, his personal moment with Bella replaced immediately by sharp, protective focus. How long have they been watching? Unclear, sir, but it appears deliberate and calculated, the assistant replied grimly. Giovanni turned quickly to Bella, concern evident in his intense gaze. Bella, I need you to stay close to me until we understand exactly what's happening. Bella nodded, fear and uncertainty flickering behind her eyes, as she realized clearly now that whatever danger surrounded Giovanni's world had begun closing in around her as well. Who would be watching the estate like this? Bella asked nervously. Giovanni's jaw tightened, suspicion and concern evident clearly in his controlled expression. I have my suspicions, Bella, and if I'm right, This means someone has already noticed how important you've become to me. Security around the estate increased significantly over the following days. Guards patrolling the perimeter with heightened alertness. Giovanni insisted Bella remain within the estate's protected walls, a request she reluctantly accepted despite missing her small apartment and simple, independent life. "This can't continue indefinitely," Bella said one afternoon, restlessness evident in her voice as she watched guards pass by the kitchen window yet again. "I have responsibilities outside these walls too." Giovanni, reviewing security reports nearby, looked up with visible concern. "I understand your frustration, Bella, but until we identify exactly who's watching the estate and why, I can't risk your safety." Bella sighed, understanding his caution even as it weighed heavily on her. "Do you have any idea who might be responsible?" Giovanni's expression grew serious. "I suspect Don Ferraro, a rival family leader who has long sought opportunities to weaken my organization. If he's discovered our growing connection, he may see you as valuable leverage against me." Bella's stomach tightened uneasily. "Because you care about me?" "Yes," Giovanni admitted honestly, meeting her eyes directly. "And I won't apologize for that, despite the danger it brings." Their conversation was interrupted by Antonio, one of Giovanni's most trusted men, entering with visible urgency. "Sir, we've uncovered something troubling. There's been unauthorized access to sensitive information within our own security systems." Giovanni's expression darkened instantly. "A breach? From within?" "It appears so, sir," Antonio confirmed grimly. "Someone close to your inner circle has been leaking information." Giovanni's jaw tightened with barely restrained anger. "Do we know who?" "We're narrowing down the suspects now," Antonio said. "But given the timing, it's likely connected to the surveillance around this state." Bella watched Giovanni's expression harden further, clearly troubled by the possibility of betrayal from someone he trusted. "This must be incredibly difficult, discovering disloyalty so close to you." Giovanni nodded, tension evident in his controlled voice. "Trust is rare and valuable in my world, Bella. Betrayal cuts deeply, regardless of how often I've experienced it before." As Antonio departed to continue the investigation, Giovanni turned back to Bella, his expression softening slightly despite the tension surrounding them. "I'm sorry you're being pulled into this danger because of your connection to me." "Don't apologize," Bella said firmly, placing a comforting hand on his arm. "I chose to care about you, Giovanni, fully understanding the complexity and danger your world brings." Giovanni studied her carefully, gratitude and affection clear behind his intense gaze. "Your kindness continues to surprise me, Bella. Most people in your position would have run from this danger long ago." "Perhaps," Bella admitted, "but running away has never solved anything meaningful in my life." Their tender moment was abruptly interrupted when Antonio rushed back into the room, his expression alarmed. "Sir, we've identified the informant. It's Rico, one of our estate guards." Giovanni's expression turned to controlled fury. "Rico? He's worked security here for over 3 years. He's been secretly reporting to Don Ferraro for weeks," Antonio confirmed, "specifically about your relationship with Bella." Bella's breath caught sharply. "He's been watching us, reporting on us specifically." "It appears so," Antonio said grimly. "Don Ferraro now knows clearly how important you become to Giovanni." Giovanni's expression hardened with fierce protectiveness. "Where's Rico now?" "We attempted to apprehend him quietly, sir, but he's already fled the estate," Antonio reported. "He likely alerted Don Ferraro directly before escaping." Giovanni's fists clenched with barely restrained anger. "This means Don Ferraro could move against us at any moment now." Bella's fear grew visibly, though she tried desperately to maintain her composure. "What does this mean for us, Giovanni? For my safety?" Giovanni turned to her directly, his expression fierce with protective determination. "It means we need to act immediately, Bella. I won't allow Don Ferraro to use you against me." As Giovanni quickly organized his men to strengthen the estate's defenses further, Bella found herself overwhelmed by the sudden escalation of danger surrounding their relationship. Despite her fear, she remained resolute, unwilling to abandon the genuine connection she had built with Giovanni, despite the risks involved. That evening, as tensions remained high throughout the estate, Giovanni found Bella alone in the kitchen, quietly preparing a simple meal, despite the surrounding chaos. "You shouldn't be alone right now," Giovanni said gently, entering the kitchen. "Cooking calms me," Bella admitted softly. "It reminds me of simpler times, before all of this danger became part of my daily life." Giovanni watched her carefully, admiration and concern mixing behind his intense gaze. "I never intended for my world to pull you into such danger, Bella." Bella turned to face him directly, her expression steady despite the fear clearly lingering beneath her composed exterior. "I understood the risks the moment I chose to care about you, Giovanni. I don't regret that choice, regardless of what happens next." Giovanni stepped closer, gently taking her hands in his. "Whatever Don Ferraro plans, I promise you, Bella, I will protect you at any cost." Before Bella could respond, the sound of shattering glass echoed suddenly from elsewhere within the estate, followed immediately by alarmed shouts and the unmistakable sound of chaos erupting rapidly. Giovanni's expression hardened instantly, protective instincts fully activated. "Stay behind me," he ordered firmly, pulling Bella close as danger closed in swiftly around them. "They're already here," Giovanni said grimly, his eyes dark with fierce determination. "Don Ferraro's men have found us." Chaos erupted throughout the estate as Don Ferraro's men breached the perimeter, gunfire and shouting echoing through the once peaceful halls. Giovanni pulled Bella quickly behind him, moving swiftly toward a secured section of the mansion designed specifically for such emergencies. "This way," Giovanni said urgently, guiding her through a hidden passage behind the kitchen pantry. They had almost reached safety when 3 armed men suddenly appeared, blocking their path, with weapons raised. "Going somewhere, Giovanni?" one of the attackers sneered. Giovanni positioned himself protectively in front of Bella. "Let her go. This conflict is between Ferraro and me." The lead attacker laughed coldly. "Don Ferraro specifically wants her. Says she'll make excellent leverage against you." Before Giovanni could react further, the men moved quickly, overwhelming his defenses despite his skilled resistance. Bella screamed as rough hands seized her, dragging her forcefully away, while Giovanni fought desperately against the remaining attackers. "Bella!" Giovanni shouted, struggling fiercely, but the men had already forced her through a side exit, disappearing into a waiting vehicle outside. Bella was taken to an isolated countryside property outside the city, her wrists bound tightly as she was pushed roughly into a dimly lit room. Fear coursed through her body as she absorbed the frightening reality of her situation. Moments later, Don Ferraro entered, his sharp eyes studying her with calculating interest. "So you're the woman who has captured Giovanni's heart so completely," he said, circling her slowly. "Interesting. I expected someone more impressive." "Let me go," Bella said, trying desperately to steady her trembling voice. Don Ferraro smiled coldly. "Once Giovanni arrives to rescue his precious kitchen worker, this will all be over quickly. He won't resist coming for you. That's his weakness now." Bella's mind raced, fully understanding now the true nature of Don Ferraro's plan. This wasn't merely about capturing her. It was a calculated trap designed specifically to lure Giovanni into a vulnerable position, allowing Ferraro's men to eliminate him completely. "You're using me to kill him," Bella said quietly, dread settling deeply into her voice. "Precisely," Don Ferraro said with cruel satisfaction. "Now we simply wait." Meanwhile, back at the estate, Giovanni regrouped quickly with his remaining men, fury and determination burning fiercely behind his controlled exterior. "We've identified Ferraro's countryside property," Antonio reported. "Heavily guarded, but not impossible to breach." "I don't care about the risk," Giovanni said firmly, his eyes blazing with fierce determination. "Bella is in danger because of me. I will not lose her." His men exchanged uncertain glances, surprised by their usually composed boss's intense emotional urgency, but nodded firmly in agreement, quickly organizing a careful, strategic rescue plan. Back at the isolated property, Bella sat tensely, her wrists aching from the tight ropes binding her. Don Ferraro paced nearby, occasionally glancing at his watch, clearly anticipating Giovanni's imminent arrival. He genuinely cares for you, doesn't he? Ferraro asked suddenly, studying Bella's expression closely. Interesting, considering Giovanni has always maintained careful emotional distance from everyone since his mother's passing. You must be quite remarkable to have broken through his defenses. Bella remained silent, refusing to give Ferraro any satisfaction from her fear. Suddenly, the property's lights flickered, then went completely dark. Shouts and gunfire erupted outside, chaos breaking loose rapidly. "He's here," Ferraro said, a dangerous smile spreading across his face. "Right on schedule." Bella's heart raced with fear and hope simultaneously. She understood clearly that Giovanni was risking everything to save her, yet she also feared this rescue attempt might be exactly the trap Ferraro had intended all along. Inside the property, chaos erupted as Giovanni's men clashed fiercely with Ferraro's forces. Giovanni himself moved swiftly and precisely through the darkened building, eliminating threats methodically as he searched desperately for Bella. He finally located the room where she was being held, forcing the door open urgently. Don Ferraro stood there, using Bella as a human shield, his gun pressed firmly against her side. "Let her go, Ferraro," Giovanni said, his voice dangerously calm, despite the fury clearly simmering beneath his controlled exterior. "This ends now." Ferraro smiled coldly. "You've grown soft, Giovanni. All this risk, over a simple kitchen worker? Pathetic." "She has nothing to do with our conflict," Giovanni said firmly, taking a slow, deliberate step closer. "Release her, and we'll settle this between ourselves." Ferraro laughed bitterly. "You think I'll simply release my only advantage? No. This ends with you dead, and her as a permanent reminder of what happens to those who cross me." Bella's mind raced desperately, realizing she couldn't simply wait passively to be rescued. Gathering every ounce of courage she possessed, she suddenly stomped hard on Ferraro's foot, simultaneously driving her elbow sharply into his stomach. Startled by the sudden attack, Ferraro's grip loosened just enough for Bella to break free, stumbling forward and away from him. "Now!" she screamed toward Giovanni. Giovanni moved instantly, lunging forward as Ferraro raised his weapon again in shock and fury. A single gunshot echoed loudly through the property, followed immediately by tense silence. Ferraro collapsed heavily to the ground, clutching his shoulder in pain, disarmed and completely defeated. Giovanni stood over him, breathing heavily, his weapon still raised, eyes blazing with barely restrained anger. "It's over, Ferraro," Giovanni said coldly. "You've lost." Giovanni's remaining men quickly secured Ferraro and his defeated forces. Giovanni immediately turned away from his fallen rival, rushing straight to Bella, relief flooding his features as he checked her carefully for injuries. "Are you hurt?" he asked urgently, his hands gently examining her for any sign of harm. "I'm okay," Bella said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm okay, Giovanni." Overwhelmed with relief, Giovanni pulled her tightly into his arms, holding her close as though terrified she might disappear if he loosened his grip even slightly. "I thought I might lose you," he whispered against her hair. "I don't know what I would have done." Bella held onto him just as fiercely, tears finally escaping down her cheeks now that the immediate danger had passed. "You came for me," she whispered. "You really came." "I will always come for you," Giovanni said firmly, pulling back slightly to look deeply into her eyes. "Bella, my feelings for you are completely real, more real than anything I've felt since losing my mother." In the days following the confrontation with Don Ferraro, the estate slowly returned to a calmer rhythm. Ferraro, defeated and wounded, was handed over through a careful arrangement between rival families, ensuring he would no longer pose a threat to Giovanni or anyone connected to him. Rico, the traitorous guard, was dealt with quietly, and Giovanni's organization emerged from the conflict more secure than before. Bella remained at the estate during her recovery, her body slowly healing from the ordeal, though her mind still occasionally replayed the frightening events. Giovanni stayed close by her side throughout, patient and gentle, a striking contrast to the fierce, determined man who had rescued her from Ferraro's property. One peaceful afternoon, as Bella sat in the estate's kitchen garden, tending quietly to fresh herbs. Giovanni joined her, 2 cups of tea in hand. "How are you feeling today?" he asked softly, handing her a cup before sitting beside her. "Better," Bella admitted, still processing everything, "but genuinely better." Giovanni studied her carefully, concern evident in his expression. "I know this experience has changed your life completely. I understand if you wish to return to how things were before, a simple, quiet life, away from all this danger." Bella turned to look at him, considering his words seriously. "Is that even possible anymore? After everything we've shared together?" "I could arrange it," Giovanni said quietly, though something pained flickered behind his controlled expression. "A peaceful life, somewhere safe, far removed from my world's dangers. You would never have to worry about this kind of threat again." Bella was quiet for a long moment, memories flashing through her mind. The fear, the danger, but also the unexpected warmth, the deep emotional connection she had built with Giovanni despite everything working against them. "Is that what you truly want?" Bella finally asked. "For me to simply disappear from your life completely?" Giovanni's jaw tightened slightly, his eyes revealing genuine vulnerability. "No, it's the last thing I want, Bella. But I care about your safety and happiness more than my own desires." Bella reached out, gently placing her hand over his. "Giovanni, I've thought about this constantly since Ferraro's property, about walking away, returning to my simple, predictable life. But every time I consider it, I realize something important." "What's that?" Giovanni asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want a life without you in it," Bella said honestly, her voice steady despite the emotional weight of her words. "Yes, this world is dangerous. Yes, it's complicated and frightening at times. But you've shown me genuine kindness, deep loyalty, and quiet vulnerability I never expected to find in someone from your world." Giovanni's eyes softened completely, years of guarded emotional walls finally breaking down entirely. He reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. "Bella, I need you to understand something clearly," he said seriously. "Being with me means accepting a life filled with occasional risk, difficult choices, and moments of genuine danger. I won't pretend otherwise." "I know," Bella said softly, "but I also know that after everything we faced together, I trust you completely, not just with my safety, but with my heart." Giovanni's expression grew emotional, vulnerability replacing his usual guarded composure entirely. "That day in the kitchen, when you stepped forward after 10 trained professionals had already failed, recreating my mother's recipe so perfectly, that single moment changed my entire life." Bella smiled gently through tears beginning to form in her eyes. "I never expected such a simple decision to lead me here to you." "Stay with me," Giovanni said quietly, echoing words she never expected yet secretly hoped to hear. "Not because you have no choice, but because you genuinely want to build a life together, despite everything." Bella leaned into his touch, tears of happiness now falling freely. "I choose this, Giovanni. I choose you, completely." Weeks later, life slowly settled into a new, meaningful rhythm for Bella. She continued overseeing preparations whenever Giovanni's mother's cherished recipes were requested for important gatherings, finding genuine purpose and joy in honoring that beautiful tradition. Giovanni, meanwhile, found himself increasingly at peace, the constant weight of his responsibilities lightened considerably by Bella's steady, comforting presence in his life. Every evening, regardless of how demanding his responsibilities became, Giovanni returned home to Bella, grateful beyond measure for the humble kitchen worker whose remarkable talent and genuine kindness had once honored his mother's memory, and then unexpectedly captured his heart completely. Sometimes, late in the evening, Bella would think back to that fateful day in the kitchen, to the moment she stepped forward after watching 10 professional models fail completely. She never could have imagined that such a simple act of quiet courage could completely transform her entire future. But as she looked at Giovanni beside her, finally at peace despite the complicated world surrounding them, she knew without doubt that she would make the exact same choice again, without hesitation. Because sometimes the smallest, most genuine gestures, a perfectly recreated recipe, an honest answer, a moment of quiet courage, lead to the greatest, most unexpected rewards. A truth Bella now carried with her every single day, grateful for the recipe that had brought her directly to love.